Hi folks, you're with Tacitus today, your pushback channel, and thank you for joining this audio live stream. In this essay, I'd like to talk about, and I've done other videos on this, about the professional group of a cadre, if you will, of professional globalist funded protesters that are moved to wherever they need a protest, a pro-globalist protest to take place. So there's a bunch of NGOs that are involved in this, but they are generously funded, and they are able to, again, pay for the transport, accommodation, food and salaries and so on of these professional activists. Now, the globalist activist network, if you will, is it's gone from like 20 years ago. An NGO employee will be paid absolutely shit money to now an NGO. Like if I look at the best paid jobs in the whole nation, the whole country of Australia, many of those best paid jobs. This is the best paid jobs in the whole nation, by the way. These are now working for NGOs in some form of pro-globalist agitation or stirring. And one that I mentioned a few days ago, and I've seen this so many times and I've lost count, that if you're a diversity officer or someone who's meant to be monitoring how many black lesbians are working in stage plays or something like that in Australia, then you can be paid 2.5 times what an engineer would be paid, and even as much as what a senior engineer. In fact, some of the best paid, most senior engineering jobs in the nation are paid only slightly better than somebody who is, again, a diversity officer or is their job is to monitor black lesbian involvement in whatever. That's how insane things are at the moment. But that's how well paid these jobs are. And there are these agitators, globalist agitators, are embedded in every university in the Western world. And their job is to pump out the propaganda, make sure they can assemble a mob to wave placards at the drop of a hat. And these people, they work 2 or 3 days a week, but they're paid 3-4 times the average wage just to be a part-time agitator. I mean, for fuck's sake. But that's how well they're paid. So let's not assume that these are just unemployed, out of work ferals. Some of them would be, but out of work ferals that are doing this. There's the nucleus of the managerial organizational sort of structure here, and they're very well paid, and their job is to agitate. Their job is to shout down anyone who opposes the globalist project. If you're against mass migration, then these people crank into gear, and stories of Nazis everywhere. They'll be planting swastika flags wherever they can, and making sure the media is there to take the photographs and so on. So, but there's I don't know if people realise that not only is there professional paid up globalist paid up funded cadre of protesters that are moved from protest. I mean, today they're protesting climate change. Tomorrow they're protesting for illegal immigration. The day after that they're protesting for black lesbian rights and so on. So it's just professional hack goon stooges. They're not, they probably don't even know what they're protesting about, or their job is simply to agitate on behalf of the globalist project to destroy social cohesion and so on in the West. That's their primary role. That's what they're paid to do. So anyway, there was I was looking at a video from some climate change this is in England, and this was in Midlands, England. So say, I don't know, it's 250 to 200 miles north of London, probably 200 miles north of London, northwest of London, I guess. And there's a protest going on there, and there's a bunch of climate protesters, and they're blocking the traffic. It was that sort of thing. And I think it was it might have been Stop Oil, but I can't be sure. But one of them. And there was a guy who was dragged off the street and by a frustrated commuter, and his face came into sort of full view, and he was doing this really odd grimace, and so it's very clear who he was. He got a really sort of good look. I didn't think anything more about it. That was the end of it. Then some weeks later, I was watching another online vid about a guy who was doing in support of illegal migration, and he came into camera view. Well, and I thought, hold on a minute, I recognise that face. Where? So I actually went back to the original video about the climate change thing, and then now he's at sub. But this was like 300 miles apart, and more than that, probably 350 miles apart. So just having a look at, I think it's the same guy. Now, on that basis, I went to look at some of the other people in the crowd of the first video, the climate change in the Midlands of England, and had a look at those, and then went back to the video of the pro illegal immigration thing and looked, and I picked out there was a number of the same faces. Not all of them were, but there were some of them you couldn't really tell, they had hoods on or something. But there was a number of, there was one man for sure who was, and three, probably four, I'd say, women who were the same people who were at the Midlands one. Now there must have been others; they can't be the only ones. Again, others I just couldn't identify either way. So. Now this goes to show you there's a hardcore nucleus of people that are moved. These aren't, organic grassroots protesters. Far from it. They're paid up people. And they're probably being paid than the people that are in the office or the baristas in the fucking coffee shop or something like that. They're probably not paid anywhere near what these people are paid. Their job is to sow discord and discontent. They are paid agitators and paid fairly well from what I can see. So they're running around now. They're moved around now. Just consider the cost of this. You're paying someone a salary. Now, if they're paid anything like the sort of money that the agitators on campuses are, they're paid quite well, and they've got to be given transport. And whether you give them like a travelling allowance or something like that, it's almost beside the point. But their transport's being paid, their food and accommodation's being paid. Now I've noticed that the sort of hotels they're not staying in trailer parks or in sleeping under the subways or something like that. They're staying in 4- and 5-star hotels, and they're not eating. Eating the cheap stale sandwiches at the various shops near suburban train stations or something. They're eating the lobster and the bouillabaisse. They're drinking the wine and the champagne, and so they're not living the hard life on the street. Far from it. Now they dress up in what look like second-hand clothes to do the protesting, but those are in effect uniforms that are handed out to give the impression that they're poor people fighting back against the establishment, and they've got nowhere else to go, and this sort of stuff. That's a uniform they're handed out. That is not shopping at Walmart or any equivalent of that. Their clothes are designer label when they're out in mixing in the social circles. So these are the same people anyway. So if I can pick it out just on a rando basis, looking at videotape without even really giving it any thought at time, and it took me not even 5 minutes to identify these people and say, okay, this is the same people, but on a different subject matter protest that are many hundreds of kilometres apart and this sort of thing. So. Now they're involved. It was an all-day protest, so they weren't sort of flying in by private aircraft and then they were heading out an hour later. So this was, they'd have had to have accommodation and food and all these things. That's quite expensive to do, and so they don't have a commercial income. So it's all by donations and tax offsets because they declare themselves a charity. But you need a lot of money to do that, sort of thing. So these people are being moved around to do all this stuff, and they've got their very well done signs and placards and all that sort of thing. They've got organisers and managers, lie on the ground in front of the truck. They'll stop. Don't worry. This sort of and they've got all the. The media hacks and goons on site to watch it all. So anyway, so the government and the authorities, they know who these people are. Now, bear in mind they're breaking the law everywhere they go. they're blocking lawful, movement of traffic. They're blocking the roads. They're doing this. They're doing that. They are committing crimes all over the place. Yet the police do nothing. They do nothing. Wherever a pro-globalist piece of activism or alleged protest, not a fucking protest, alleged protest take place, the police do nothing. And within the case of climate protests, the police even offer to help. Oh, can we get you something to drink? Can we get you something to eat? Oh, do you want some sunscreen? Is that naughty sun? Is that naughty sun burning your naughty little skin? I mean, fuck. So this is the thing. But if you want to, so the government knows who they are. They could arrest and fine, locate and throw these people in prison at any time for these multiple, not one or two, but multiple instances of breaking the law. And breaking the law here, then going a few hundred kilometres away and breaking the law again, then breaking it again, and then again and again and again. And yet the authorities do nothing. They know exactly who these people are. Yet, a Christian, straight white Christian woman protests 100 yards away from an abortion clinic. Bang, the police are there in force to make an arrest. Those big tough police making an arrest of this one woman, and yet they're powerless, gutless and powerless. Now we saw this with the Hamas protesters. My understanding is that a number, if not most or all of those protests were not legal. They hadn't applied for a protest permit, and they were in areas that are not permitted for protest gatherings and things like that. And yet the police did nothing. But some parents go to a school board meeting and complain about LGBTQ propaganda being taught to their 8-year-olds. Again, the police arrive in force to arrest those fucking Nazis. But can do nothing in those other instances. So we've got a very selective application of the law and selective application of policing. I saw one video in the United Kingdom where there was an elderly gentleman, an straight white English guy, who was waving the Union Jack somewhere in London. So the police came along and arrested him. Oh, fuck. Can you imagine such a dystopia? But all these professional, paid up globalist agitators breaking the law on multiple fronts on multiple times. Nah, police can't do nothing. Nah, powerless. So we've got this thing where if you're a pro-globalist activist working on behalf of the globalists to sow social discord, social discontent, to destroy social cohesion, then the police forces of the Western nations, again, where the governments are globalist controlled, will not only actively support you, but also protect you in your most important work. You've been with Tacitus today, your Pushback channel. Thank you for listening.